This week's topic is wealth. I don't know why I do that every time, but wealth. Andy, what's up? And the first thing that we think of with wealth is always money and financial benefits, like and trappings, assets, that type of thing. And whilst that is one type of wealth, the wealth that I want to talk about, basically I want to open up our interpretation of wealth to include other things, because at the end of the day, you can have as much money as you want. Rich people can still be miserable. So the question is, in which case, okay, if wealth isn't the thing that creates the happiness, then how can we redefine wealth so that it can include all of that? I think Ariana Grande's brought out a song this week or something. I saw some stuff on Instagram about how she was saying, people say money can't buy you one of the lyrics, if people say money can't buy you happiness and they don't have enough money or something like that, which is like a cute idea. But I haven't heard the whole song, so I'm not going to judge it. But I think that we have this idea that somehow if we get a certain amount of money that we'll be happy, and they've done several studies to prove that after a certain threshold, once certain needs are taken care of, that money just does not add any more value to your life. So in which case, why would we be looking for wealth? Well, if we take it outside of the boundaries of just finances and include other things, then it starts to have a bigger, deeper meaning. So I was thinking, wealth could include, I made a little list, but I'm sure there are things that you would add to it. Like wealth can include things like a richness in your relationships, an abundance of opportunities, satisfaction, joy, health, happiness, contentment, and whatever other things you might feel to add to that. So it's not just about the financial reward or the financial trappings, like you're not sitting atop a pile of gold. It's about much more than that. It's about all those other things. And then I think if you're able to generate those things in your life, then I think one could say that one is experiencing wealth in a deeper, fuller sense. JT Krypton has joined. Zoe does not like Ariana Grande. George, hey George, and Anton says, is that right? Is it Anton? A certain amount of freedom though is good. Oh yeah, absolutely. And they said that the figure is probably constantly changing, but the figure is around £50,000. If you can earn that a year, then beyond that there's diminishing returns, not no returns, but diminishing returns on the amount of money you've got. But even if you do get happier with a bit more money, would you like to be super rich and unhealthy or unwell? I'd rather take a lot less money and have my health. So when I talk about wealth, I'm talking about a holistic sense of wealth in your life, as in we were talking about the wheel of life before, that all those sections of that wheel are working for you, not just the money one. Right? Or not just the work one. Hey Rob and Asha and Carly and she I don't know how to pronounce that, but anyways, hey. And William says, health for me, roof over my head. I think everyone's got, we'll come to this, but I think everyone has their own, once you broaden out the meaning of wealth, everybody has their own definition of it. Lucky number 32 has joined, and William says food on the table. Trina Haywood has joined, hey, and Sean says super rich and teleportation device. Well, if you're super rich, you can create a teleportation device, so yay. William says 40k in the north. Well, listen, like I say, the figure is probably changing all the time, and might be regionally, might change depending on what region you're in. So this idea of wealth, I'm just sort of just perusing the old notes there. Yeah, so this broader definition of wealth, it doesn't just come from, so it can come from many areas, or you can start to cultivate it by working on different areas. It's not just so it stops being about what you have or what you can get. It's what you do. It's about what you know. It's about who you know, who's in your life, who you're being in your life, how you're living. But most of all, I think it's about your mindset. So I want to talk about that. So I'm just trying to keep an eye on the comments, and you're just It's Bants. Anton's having Bants. So teleportation device, private jet. Cool. All right. So mindset, right? So I sort of started spitballing some ideas about like what if we were to have this thing called a wealth mindset, if we were to say that, to be able to generate wealth requires a particular mindset, what would be the important sort of facets of that mindset? And I came up with for five areas. And you might, again, so by the way, take this whole conversation as just like an inspiration for how it might work for you. I think that this wealth conversation is a really it's a bespoke conversation that you have to have with yourself, but this can be the jumping off point. So nothing I'm saying is finite. There'll be things in here that you're like, I don't agree with that, and things that you'll want to add to it, but use this maybe as a jumping off point to see where in your life it fits, right? So for example, with the wealth mindset, not all of the things that I'm saying might work for you, or you might want to add to. So the 5 things I came up with. Hi DJ Lincoln, Cena and John, hi, is 1, sense of abundance. 2, an attitude of gratitude. 3, ownership and responsibility. 4, lateral thinking. And 5, personal goals and parameters. Oh, actually, looks like I've got another one. Resources. Anyways, all right. I'm gonna let me just make a little note, because I'll see if there's anything to say about resources by the time we get to the end. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. Okay. So Sean says, I was always brought up to appreciate what you have, not have got, not what you haven't got. 43, Scott has joined. Hi. Yeah, Sean, I mean, that's good. And that's why I say that this is going to be there are bits of this that won't apply and bits of it that will. So to cherry pick the bits that make sense and work for you. So I want to go through each one as I was sort of teasing out the idea and seeing what was there. So we'll start with abundance. Hang on, let me just keep that list to hand, just because. See behind me, see the little light on me. Anyways, so yeah, abundance. Okay, so one of the differences I think between a wealth mentality and, let's just call it not wealth mentality. I don't want to put a name on it or judgment, because that will come with a judgment, but let's just call it wealth mentality. One of the things is abundance. If you're in a wealth mentality, you are focused on what's there or what's possible. The opposite of that would be to focus on lack, i.e. that there's not enough to go round, and it comes out in your language, in the way that you speak, in the beliefs that you have, that there's just not enough to go round. There is enough to go round. There is space for you, but it depends on how you're looking at the world. Now, obviously you're going to argue, well, how come there's starving people, and how comes there's, how come not everyone has somewhere to live, and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, the reason that happens is not because there's not enough to go around, it's unevenly distributed. And, that's a whole other conversation, and it's kind of a political one. So I'm going to set that aside, because I'm talking about you now, not about the entire world. So an abundance mentality means that you're not focused on the lack. You're not focused on this sense of like, that there's not enough for me. There's a really great book called, I think it's called something like You're Not as Smart as You Think You Are. And it talks about all these different sort of I don't know how to describe them, kind of mental ways of being that we have, that we're kind of unconscious of. And one of the things in the book was talking about how we have this thing where if we see somebody taking more than they're supposed to, it automatically makes us do the same. We kind of unconsciously do it because, and most of the time, probably I would guess, is that people are coming from a sense of lack. The only reason that you would feel the need to take more than you need is if you are in a sense of lack. And if you see somebody taking more than they need, you're thinking, well, if I don't take more, then there won't be any left for me. So it's almost like self-fulfilling. So one has to sort of get oneself out of that sort of spiral of thinking about being in this state of lack, and just reassure yourself that there is enough. There is enough of what you need. There's a difference between what you want and what you need. And that's one of the other things that you need to distinguish when you're in this sort of, you're trying to sort of generate this sort of abundance mindset, is that having loads might not be what you need. You know, or it might not be, it might not be what you need. You need enough for wherever you're at. And if you can incorporate that in your sense of abundance, then you'll be laughing. It's when you think you should have more. And then what is that even based on? What's that belief that you should have more? That somehow what you have isn't right, isn't enough, isn't the right thing. And that if you had something else, then you would be happy. Because that's always a someday, one day, someday type of thinking. So if you're present to what you've got, and focusing on either what you have or what possibilities you can create, then you'll be more in a sense of abundance, and you won't be focusing on lack. Lack also creates competition, because if you think that there can only be one person getting to the top of the tree, then obviously you're gonna, if you believe you should be up there too, then you're gonna fight to get up to the top of the tree as well, and that's what creates competition. It's like you know, if you think about, like, I don't know, like acting awards or some sort of creative award, there's one winner, there's one best actress, award given, unless it's the AFI or whatever, where they split it between two people. But anyways, most of the time there's only one winner, and so it creates this bizarre like competition between two people that turned in two completely different performances, are probably not really comparable in any way, because they're different performances in different types of films about different things, you know what I mean? But somehow we've created this scenario where no, we can judge them equally, and one must win and everybody else will lose. And you, fine for awards, whatever, but you don't need to create that same level of competition in your life, and that comes out of a sense of lack. If he or she gets it, and that means I don't, that means I lose. And that's a mental construct that we've come up with that is like based out of a sense of lack. What is meant for you will not go by you. You know, someone said that to me once, and they'd lost out on not lost out on a job, but they'd lost out on a job, and they said to themselves, you know, pretty quickly after they'd heard the news, not what is meant for me will not go by me. And I was just really blown away by that sense of like, that wasn't meant for me. And that is mature abundance mindset thinking. Is not like you're supposed to have everything. That's not abundance. Abundance isn't loads. Abundance is what you need. And she was like, that wasn't meant for me. What is meant for me will not go by me. And I really appreciated that. Okay, all right. So Steve, Lee, Steve, 43 Scott, Quincy, Gabari, and Chris. Hey Chris, how's it going? And Anton have joined, and Anton says, as in lacking but by comparison. As in lacking but by comparison. Just explain that comment for me, please, just so I can understand that. And Kaj Miko has joined. So you know, comparisons can be helpful. Sometimes we'll come to that. But negative comparisons, that can get in your way, and that also comes from a sense of lack. How come they've got da 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 da? Why aren't I where they are? You just need to worry about your own lane. And I don't mean stay in your lane as in only do one thing. We've had that conversation before. I mean more like just worry about your relationship with your finish line is your business, and that person's relationship with their finish line is their business. It may look like you're in the same game, but you guys aren't even running the same race. So to compare only creates this sense of lack. If you want to take stock and measure where you're getting to and how well you're doing, that's a completely different thing. And I get that, and I would, you know, encourage that if it helps you. But to be constantly like half an eye on what other people are doing, if that doesn't serve you, then you're just diminishing yourself and creating this sense of lack. So yeah, and also when we focus on abundance, then that's okay. Let's make it very simple. The saying goes, you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. And so in respect of this conversation, it means that if you see the world as an abundant place, then that is what it will be. If you see the world as something based on lack and not enough to go round and not enough for me, then that is the experience you will continually recreate. And so the choice is yours. Like, how do you want to live it? And it's not easy, because like, this is something I struggle with, the competition thing, the comparisons, I've said that before. Like, I find that very difficult. And I've noticed, like, this week, that I create a phony competition with somebody just to have, probably because I'm in this like sense of a state of lack, and so I generate this idea of a competition with somebody who doesn't know that they're competing with me, and then I beat myself up because I'm not doing as well as they are, and forgetting that they have had a totally different path, running a totally different race, totally different goals, totally different needs, blah, blah, blah. Everything is different. And yet in my mind wants to make this comparison. I don't know, maybe somehow it's sort of is satisfying in a sort of in a unproductive kind of way. Anton says, people feel like they're lacking because of what they see others have. Yes, exactly. When really it's not for them. Exactly. It can be very easy to generate a sense of lack when you see somebody with what looks like your definition of abundance, or the socially accepted definition of abundance. Hey, Amber. Hey. Anton says, yeah, I've done that too at times. Yeah. Okay. Pat. Hey, Pat. And Mark, what's up? All right. So I think, do we feel like we've got that abundance thing, the distinction between the abundance and a sense of abundance and a sense of lack, and what difference that can make in terms of your outlook? We're all basically on different parts of our journey, and therefore to try and compare is redundant. It doesn't serve us, it doesn't serve the other person, and it kind of diminishes and disrespects the journey that we've been making, because we might have needed certain lessons, and that's why we've been through all the different things that we've been through and haven't got to that sense of abundant situation that we're looking for. So, the comparisons, those negative comparisons don't actually help. So let's move on to gratitude. So, I mean, it is what it says. Who said right up top that they're always grateful? They were brought up to be grateful. Where is that? Let me just go back. I'm going back. Oh, I can't find it. Let's see. I can't find it. Anyway, somebody said, yeah, that they were, oh, Sean. Okay, there we go. So brought up to say, hey, Alistair. Thanks, Pat. Very sweet of you. So yeah. That's great if you were brought up to, but I don't think it's people's natural default state. Let's just be real a second. I don't think it's people's natural default state to be in a state of gratitude. I know I'm not, and it's something that I realized I need to work on. And so I have set this little goal or whatever for myself, that every morning I wake up and I say the things I'm grateful for. And the funny thing about it is, what I noticed for myself is that I was getting into the habit of being grateful for things that weren't so. Oh, I'm glad it's not raining, say, for example, something like that, rather than speaking to the positive. So I've had to retrain my brain to just not focus on, oh, well, I'm glad I didn't fall over or whatever, rather than saying things like that are affirmative, like, I'm so glad I've got a roof over my head. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that, this work opportunity has come away. I'm grateful for that audition, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So focusing on the positive rather than like going, oh, well, at least that didn't happen. It's not a very powerful place to come to the table of gratitude with. So it's not a right and a wrong, but yeah, it's not very powerful. So let's be grateful for what we have. I think that is very much a wealth mentality. So it's not about when I get that thing, I'll be happy. When I get that thing, I'll be grateful. It's like, what have I got, and what am I grateful for? Pat says, yeah, not rain, wet sunshine. Yeah. So in that respect, when we're talking about gratitude, then comparisons can be helpful, because you can compare yourself with, a past version of yourself and what you didn't have then. So, or what you don't, what you don't have to do now that you used to have to do then. That's something to be, I think that's something to really, that's a helpful comparison. Again, another helpful comparison is comparing yourself with people that don't have what you have. Particularly, I mean, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't make it like martyrdom or something, or weird self-flagellation or whatever. Not martyrdom, self-flagellation. But it can be very helpful if you remind yourself that what you have currently in your career is what somebody that you might not be enjoying so much is what somebody else has been striving for, is still striving for. You know, there are times when we all complain about certain aspects of our jobs, and just, you know, it's very helpful to remind ourselves there is an artist out there who would kill to have these problems. And again, it's not a case of, you know, self-flagellating yourself. Oh, I should be grateful and I'm not. It's just a space to step into of, oh yeah, I remember there was a time when I would have killed to have this problem, and now I have it. Let me live in gratitude rather than be complaining about it. Doesn't mean that your problems or whatever's going on aren't real. It just means that you're repositioning them in your relationship with them. Yeah. Okay, so Camille and Ryan, hey. Anton says, I practice it as acknowledging my privileges. Yeah, I mean, however it works for you. Like I said, you'll take bits of this, and some bits you'll turn into whatever you need it to be that works for you, and some bits disregard and some bits add to. So that's cool. Jonas, hey. And Camille, Sylvia and Ryan have joined. Hey. So Steve says, a lot of the things you're talking about regarding wealth, gratitude and contentment are deep spiritual truths. I mean, Steve, like, I think that, yeah, I mean, that's kind of bingo. Yeah, that's, I think those principles are fundamental human truths, and they come out and people access them in different ways. We're talking about it in the context of creativity, and some people have that conversation in the context of something else. So I like that it's about creativity, because I feel like it's, you know, if I'm speaking to a room of artists here, so we can all go out and practice this immediately rather than it being conceptual. Not that the other versions of this are conceptual, but just like it gives us, because it's in this context of creativity, it gives us a place to be with it easily. That's sort of non-secular. Ryan says, hello, one and all. Excellent. And Steve says, hey, Ryan. Urban rat. I tried to teach my kids about gratitude, but they just don't get it. God dang it. One day they will. You know, I saw a really beautiful video. This woman, she'd rented a room in a friend's house or something while she was trying to earn enough money, and she was saving until she could get enough money to buy her and her son. Her son is probably about 7. His own house, and their own house, not his own house. He could be living on his own, like Richie Rich. And she drove up to the driveway. I don't know if you guys saw this video, but she drives up to the driveway and she's sort of filming her son. And as soon as he realizes that the house is for him, he just bursts into tears. He's like, so happy, and she's like, you happy? He's like, I'm so happy, ma'am. And then he gets out of the car, he walks around to her side, and he's trying to open the door. She's like, what you doing? Don't cry, you're gonna make me cry. And he's crying, and the thing that really got me is he just said, thank you, ma'am, thank you. Like, the fact that he appreciated it wasn't just that so he that to me said that he got that this wasn't just about him. Because if he'd run in and gone, where am I? Where's my room? Where am I going to put my toys? That would have been fine, but that would have been a different relationship with what you could clearly see that this guy, this 7-year-old guy, got what sacrifice his mum had made, what she had done for them, and he was just in this space of gratitude that just was emotionally overwhelming for him. It was really beautiful. So, go for Sam joins. Hi. Ryan saying hello. Okay, Sean says, there will always be people who have more than you. Yep, don't try and keep up. Yep, cool. Patrick, hey. I mean, Sean, you're right. I mean, we can all say this, but when you drill down as to what the fundamental truths are that you're living out of, a lot of the time we're not living out of that space. So I get why people say that, oh, just stay in your lane, you got to do this, but we got to be also honest about where we're starting from, because we all, including myself, it's very easy to say the ways that we should be, But the truth is, when we're living day to day, is that what we're doing? And if not, let's look at that and try and bring some consciousness, shine a light of our consciousness on it, so that we can really live like that, rather than just tell other people to do it. Pat says, I've been trying to retrain my brain to see the positive in things instead of the negative. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, Pat, maybe the place to start, rather than trying to do a number on yourself, because it's just more thinking, is just to get where you're at. Like at the moment, I am in this space where sometimes I focus on the negative more than the positive, and just be comfortable with that, rather than like, and then maybe the positive thing will come naturally by observing your brain doing this thing of like focusing on the negative. Maybe you'll naturally just catch yourself, and then the positive will emerge, maybe naturally emerge. Maybe the positive's already there, and then that negative thoughts or negative observations are shadowing. I don't know. I just think there should be like an ease about this. I get training your brain, because I do that too sometimes, and I try it. So I don't want to like stop you doing that if that's working for you. But yeah, sometimes sometimes it needs a light touch, and sometimes it needs like hammer work. So I trust that you know which is required at which times. Martin, hi. Lydia, hello. Steve says, Richie Rich, cultural reference that shows your age. Whatever, I'm 28. Anton says, to me, it's about being real. There's good to acknowledge in everything, and that doesn't mean the bad isn't there. It just means it's not all dark and sad. Yeah. And exactly, it's that thing of like, Kendi. Okay, cool. Kendi. Very good. All right. So it just means, it's that thing I said earlier, that, you know, you don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. So if you're looking for the good, like you say, then you'll see it. And if you're looking for dark and sad, that's what the world looks like. This man, the conversations I've had with people who are like, oh, the world's terrible, it didn't used to be like this, the old days. It's like, yeah, if you're focusing on all the negativity, then that is exactly what the world is going to look like to you. But if you focus on the good, then that's what the world looks like. It is literally as simple as that. It's as simple an equation as that. William says, can't get rid of the negative until you know what it is. I don't know that I agree. You know, sometimes if you have a predisposition to see the negative, if you can turn that around, you don't have to know what the negative was. You don't have to, because there's an abundance of negative if you really want that, if you really look for it. You don't have to identify and know what every single thing, a negative thing is. You can just go, that's what I do. I sometimes do the da-da-da. No, I'm just going to focus on the positive. I don't know. Look, I'm here to not necessarily always agree. So that's something I'm just going to not agree on, is that I don't think it's as straightforward as that. I think that, you know, sometimes it just means, sometimes it's just about the way the brain works rather than what the brain is seeing or what you are observing. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you can just like encourage yourself to either get that you know, negative is like, okay, let me give you an example. Like, someone very close to me is a real worrier. And so that person like will tend to focus on things being a bit shady, bit like dangerous, a bit unsafe, bit uncertain, because that's the way they see the world. Now, do they have to inquire into everything that they think is shady, weird, negative, untrustworthy, blah, blah, blah? No, they don't. They could, if they want to. Start to work on not worrying. Start to see the world as it is rather than through this negative lens. They don't have to know everything that's worrying. They don't have to be able to identify everything that's worrying them. I'm going to leave it at that. Don, yo. Oh, hang on. I've missed. Okay, so Pat says it's working, I think. Cool. Don's joined. William says okay. Gwyneth says, so the grass is greener on the other side, but you don't need to be that green. Yeah, I guess so. Let me think. Yeah, the grass may be greener, but we know that saying is based on the fact that it's a perception. It's not about the grass actually being greener. It's about you thinking it looks greener because you don't appreciate the green of your own grass. So gratitude. So you it's not that you don't need to be that green. You may well already be that green. Smalls, what's up? Okay, so I think we've got gratitude. Yes? Yes. All right. So what's next? Ownership. I think this is a really important one, and this might sort of, I think this will bring a bit of sort of clarity and stuff to some of the other things we've talking about. We've spoken about. Patrick says, anytime I want to feel grateful, I observe nature. Nature always makes the best out of any situation. Yes, in the words of Jeff Goldblum's character in what do you call it? Or is it anyway? Someone in Jurassic Park says nature finds a way. And yeah, nature is very humbling as well, and very good at bringing you into the present. So I think that's a brilliant tool. Pat says green with envy. Green with envy. So taking ownership and responsibility. Okay, so I've just broken it down into a few things. There may be more. It might spark some thoughts for you. One, your language, how you speak about wealth. So someone said to me the other day when I, said that wealth was a topic that we were talking about, they were like, wealth, where's the wealth? And I completely get where they're coming from. But I'm using that as an example to say, if you perpetuate that idea, but with the way that you speak, that you're speaking is energy that goes into the world, and the energy that you put into the world is what the world becomes, or what the world is. So if you are speaking from this place of, I haven't got wealth, I can't generate wealth, where wealth is something that other people have, I've got too much, so I can't, whatever the story is that you've got about it, that is what you'll create. And it isn't to say that there might be some truths in what you're saying, but look, the thing is, at the end of the day, if you've got no money, that is a truth. But if you want to get into a wealth mindset, do you talk about how much money you don't have, or you talk about what you're going to do to create possibility? So it's not like, so the fundamental truth is the same, I have no money, but where your focus is changes, and therefore what your language is changes. Dr. Malcolm, that's it. Yes, it was Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. Nature finds a way, life finds a way. So you got to check your language. So many, it's a whole other conversation to talk about how important your language is in terms of your mindset, and how it is an indication of your mindset. Your language is the tip of a massive iceberg. So if your language is negative or vague or disempowering, that is the tip of a huge iceberg, an energetic iceberg that will shape the way that the way that things are going to go for you. So you really got to start to catch yourself and be responsible for yourself, because also the way that you speak is your own responsibility. Like the way you're speaking about yourself and your own wealth, or relationship to wealth, that's something that is an invitation to be responsible for, if you want to create change. So rather than talking about what's not so, what you don't have, how hard everything is, and coming from this victim mentality, start to speak from a place that's more empowering for you, and see how things change, see how people respond to you differently because you are using a different type of language. Steve says, I have no money, either a statement of resignation or awareness. Okay, so without going too deeply into the language thing, we all know that language is not just about the words that people use, it's the intent behind it. You can call someone a bastard and it be the most loving thing you've ever said, and equally it can be the worst thing you've ever said to somebody. So I have no money in itself is part of the communication, but the intent behind it, if it's like I have no money and I should, then that's a different communication. Is I have no money and I'm going to do something about it, is a totally different communication. Sean says, positive people hardly associate with negative people. The needy dog syndrome. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to tell people who they shouldn't associate with, but if you are around people that are draining your energy, sometimes moments to be by oneself, to reflect and to plan and to strategize away from the negativity of people that do use disempowering language can make a huge difference. I'm not here to say what to do, but like, it does make a difference. And I personally have been very wary of people that feel like they're just hanging off you energetically kind of thing, but because they just come from, and it's not like I don't want to ever hang out with people like that. You can't just completely dismiss everybody like just because they're in that space, because maybe they're hanging out with you because they want to pull themselves up but they don't know how to, so they're trying to associate with people that are sort of going to motivate them, inspire them. So let's not just dismiss somebody because they're in that space, but you got to be careful energetically about what you have around you, because if everyone around you has that same like negative outlook, then guess what, you're going to have it too. You got to start to curate your own relationships so that you can it becomes easier for you to speak with a language that's more empowering. Okay, so Patrick says language tends to reinforce or create neural pathways. Exactly, all that. Our thoughts, our actions, our words. It's the old Thatcher saying, who I think she got it from somebody else, but be careful of your thoughts because they become your words. Be careful of your words because they become your deeds. Be careful of your deeds because they become your habits, and something about habits being your character or something like that. So, we say that words aren't a big deal, but actually, look what they can become. They become your character. Kaj says society would be better without using money, like in Utopia. I have no thought on that either way. I have no idea what a moneyless society would be like, so I cannot say anything about that. And Kendi says, I have no money, so how am I going to get this thing anyway? So what's your point? What are you saying with that, Kendi? And Sean says, darn it, I gotta go to work. Toodle pip. All right, bye, Sean. I'll see you next time. All right, so your language, right? Oh, thanks for being here, Sean, by the way. I didn't mean to, it sounded a bit like, no, yeah, whatever. But I didn't mean that. Enjoy work. Your language, right? Your focus. What are you focusing on? Again, like we were talking about before, you're focusing on lack or possibility. Also victimhood and blame. Like this can be a big part of like people's relationship with wealth, is like either you, first of all, you're casting yourself as some sort of helpless victim in it all. And then there's blame as well. You might either be blaming yourself, you might be blaming somebody else. If I hadn't been brought up in this environment, I haven't come from money, the situation I'm in just is very expensive, or, whatever it is. Or you might be blaming a particular organization, the government, or you might be blaming something conceptual, like, this is how the world is, It doesn't matter who the blame is going to. You're undermining yourself and your own ability to be able to generate for yourself. Because one of the most interesting things about sort of recessions and economic recessions and things like that is that often that's when a lot of entrepreneurs succeed. Now, why is that? If everyone's talking about how depressed everything is and how markets aren't thriving and all the rest of it, why is it? And I'm not talking about bankers who bet on the decline or something like that. I'm talking about actual real entrepreneurs who start tech businesses and open restaurants and do all kinds of things, right? If they were in a blame mentality, then they would say, I can't open a restaurant now. But when people, or I can't start a cosmetics line. Or they could be, have a bit of lateral thinking, which we'll come to, and go, all right, people can't afford big lavish lifestyles now, but the lipstick effect kicks in when there's a lack of money going around. People can't afford lavish lifestyles, so women start to buy more lipsticks, start to buy more cosmetics. That's a known thing, that the sales of cosmetics goes up in times of recession because women can't afford to buy big fancy things and holidays and all the rest of it, so but they still want to treat themselves. People still want to eat out, but they might not be able to eat out at fancy restaurants, so they order a pizza, so maybe pizza sales thrive. So instead of coming at this whole wealth thing from a perspective of somebody's fault, maybe it's someone's opportunity, i.e. yours. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so Kaj says, Thomas More wrote that book, Utopia. I've never read it. Okay, so William Scott says, and he got paid for it. I don't know what that's a reference to. Patrick says, I think we should focus more on creating value rather than making money. Yeah, I mean, I'm using money as, yes, you're absolutely right, because that's actually where this conversation started. And I am sort of talking a bit more about money. But, what I'm saying about language and focus and victimhood and all that, they are applicable to all the areas that we were talking about in terms of, relationships, joy, contentment. If you're blaming somebody else or something else for your lack of contentment, then that's the same principle. The invitation is to turn that around and make that something that you take ownership of. But you're right, yeah. It's a good reminder that this wealth conversation is not just about money. Kendi says, was referring to what others were saying just before. Sorry, the comments don't necessarily come up for me as you post them. So sometimes the conversation's moved on a little bit. So sorry if I'm not sure what you're referring to. That way of thinking is just how I do. Looking at a problem to know what I'm in for and be able to go around it. Let me just... Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Yeah. So an evaluation. Yeah. I mean, that totally makes sense. No. It's fine. Don't worry about it. There's no need to apologize. Yes, that makes sense. I am genuinely interested if I ask for clarity. Like, I want to know. I want to be able to include what you're saying. All right. Okay. Just thinking, looking at the time. Your beliefs. Okay, so that ties in with the language thing, the victimhood thing, is your beliefs. Like, what are your beliefs around wealth? I'm going to use money as an example, but as I said, like, all these principles are applicable to all areas of your life where you want to generate wealth. The beliefs you have are so powerful, and you may think that there are some things that are just fundamental truths that actually aren't. I'll give you an example of a very basic one, and then you can see where in your life you might be holding on to something that actually maybe isn't true. Money is hard to come by. That is a truth that a lot of people believe. And the difficulty about beliefs is you don't think that they're a belief. You don't think that I've chosen to decide this is the truth, my truth. You think it's the truth. Money is hard to come by. And so what happens is you live out of this space of money is hard to come by. And everything you do is governed by money is hard to come by. Your language, your focus, your, victimhood or whatever, because you've decided money is hard to come by. I've done all I can and I tried. So I'm just using that as an example, just to invite you guys to just look at your beliefs and just see what's really there in terms of what fundamental truths you've been holding on to that actually maybe aren't truths, maybe are things that you've decided are true and live as though they're true, but actually when push came to shove, you'd see that they're not. Another thing with taking ownership is to make sure that your actions meet your aspirations. So very, very basically, if you have aspirations to be a millionaire, for example, doing more hours at your job is not going to get the job done. You've got to make sure that you've given yourself every opportunity to create the wealth that you want. Be that in your health, in your career, in your finances, in your relationships, whatever it may be. If you're not going out there and getting onto that dating website, you can't be talking about a sense of lack in your love life, or doing whatever it is that you, and not the dating websites are the answer to that sort of thing, but do you know what I mean? You've got to make sure that your actions meet your aspirations. William says, yes, can't solve a problem till you know what it is. Okay, and Pat says, this is my year. Boom. And Steve says, is what you are saying about manifesting our desires racially and gender neutral? Is what you're saying about manifesting our desires? Well, yes, of course, yes, because the field of infinite possibility does not have any sort of biases. It may be that out of your specific racial or gender background or whatever, that you have a particular set of biases that you have to overcome to start to believe in your ability to manifest. But manifesting is manifesting. Everybody can intend. There's nothing in your way other than yourself in that respect. Kenny says, I feel like money is not that hard to come by, but it's hard to come by if you want to be yourself all the way while getting it, or if you want to stay in your comfort zone when you get it. There you go. And that's a belief. I'm sure there are people out there that got money by being who they are. You know, a lot of artists who succeed do so because of their authenticity, i.e. being themselves, and they get very rich, if we're talking specifically about money, by being completely and they're authentic in a way that you wouldn't have thought that would work. But there they are, being themselves. So this is what I mean by a belief that one's holding on to. Who would have thought that a woman tidying would have been a successful TV show, or a woman teaching people to tidy up? But if that's what authentically, you know, resonates with, what's her name, Maria Kondo, then that's her authentic expression, and that's how she is creating her wealth and success. So this is what I mean about holding on to something that you think is true, but actually might not be so. It's a way of seeing the world. And obviously, if you see the world that way, then you'll only see the examples of things that validate and verify what you already think. You won't see things you won't notice the things that counter it, that are contrary to it, that undermine that thought. You'll only see, it's like you're looking for, we all do this, by the way, so you're looking for what fits what you already think. But then when you get that shaken away, you can actually see what's so. That money is just money. Money is just energy, a movement of energy. And it is as hard or as difficult to get hold of as you believe it is. It's not just about belief, obviously it's about the actions that you take as well. But it's not quite what you thought. Steve says, so women and black women have the same manifesting potentials as men and non-blacks. Culturally, we are led to believe they do not. This is a difficult conversation, Steve, because that's more of a political thing. At the level and the level of consciousness that we're talking about, where you can all manifest equally, will there be social conditioning that has been put on women to and people of color to tell them or to have them believe that they cannot have and be as successful? Yes, of course. But once the process of overriding that is the same for any person. Doesn't matter what their cultural background is. Like so that question exists more in the social political consciousness. We're working at a level above that. Okay, so Steve does a face. Kendi says, right, get you. And Steve says, we are led to believe that women and black people have to work harder to manifest their potential. Answered that question already. So, all right. So then where are we? Oh yeah, lateral thinking. So I'm going to blitz these last two because I think we are getting what I'm getting at. Lateral thinking. I don't know why I put that down, but because really what I was thinking of was thinking outside of the box, being more open in terms of how you approach what you are trying to achieve, so that you have access to ways of thinking and ideas that are outside of where you would have normally thought. Because lateral thinking takes you outside of the box. Brainstorm ideas with people. Sometimes when you can generate that space of like inspiration, you know, remember we were talking about how I see her as this woman that wants to dance with you or for you or something like that. And you know, when you're spitballing ideas with someone, you invite inspiration in, and maybe more ideas can come as to how you can realize what it is you're trying to achieve. And also I think as well, in terms of your thinking, just being really clear about what you want, and also defining your terms. So, for example, Kendi was saying about, you know, wanting to be themselves in how they generate their own wealth. Well, that's your terms. And if you tell yourself, I can do this and by my terms, then it will be so. You'll have to work and find the way to make it happen. And maybe that'll be something you have to brainstorm with people, but it will happen. So William says lots of ways to skin a cat. And Kendi says, Steve, I believe it's the execution level. We minorities got to strategize around that. Yeah, I mean, thank you, Kendi. That's the perfect, that's the what I should have added on to the end of that. Exactly that. There are some things that we have to strategize around, but strategize around we can and have, as you know, many examples of it online. And what I really love about social media is the fact that all those examples, I've got direct access to them. I don't have to wait for mainstream media to tell me about them. So I see more and more and more of that. I follow like black tech accounts and black artists accounts and black finance accounts and stuff like that, and you're like, damn, we're doing it, you know. And I feel like I want to share more of that on social media anyways, just to sort of reposition people's experience of black people as, being the victims in our lives, when actually a lot of black people are just doing a lot of amazing things and doing exactly what Kendi just said. Patrick says innovation usually arises from synthesizing two usually disparate concepts. And also it comes out of a problem, that can often create a problem. So actually sometimes being a woman, being a person of color, you got a problem, that society wants to treat you in a particular way, and that can create innovation. I mean, if you think about the things that black people and women have achieved, and all people of color actually, despite what pushback they experience, it is a miracle. And the innovation required, I mean, even just this thing of the Green Book, the innovation required in the entrepreneurship and ingenuity that's required to circumnavigate all those obstacles is a miracle. Okay. So Small says, manifesting is different, Steve, or how we sometimes call it, speaking things into existence that has nothing to do with politics or social stratification that causes actual barriers to success. But she's right in that awareness of those barriers can affect how we move through our manifestations, and the Jellyfest has joined. Smalls, perfectly put. All right, so there's the lateral thinking, and then also I think this is really important. One must consider creating one's own definition of wealth for oneself, rather than allowing the world out there to define it and chasing something that has already been predefined for you. Define it for yourself. Come up with your own goals, and be clear on your own desires. Create your goals and make your wealth specific to what you want. Because when one does that, one might actually find that one is already wealthy. That's it. I want to get to the question because, Okay, Kendi says, as a black woman, I do see barriers, so I got to be creative. But it doesn't mean that you can't manifest. I think it was Patrick said something about it's in the execution. I think that's a really important point. So yes. And Jelly says, manifesting reality is just reality being manifested. Cool. And Pat says, black ladies are the best. Okay, cool. Thanks, Pat. All right. So the question was, for people that are doing the projects, the question was, first of all, two questions. One is people doing the projects. How is it going? Just write a couple of sentences on how you're going with that. If you're still going, if you've changed it, if you've thrown it out, if you're just barreling ahead and it's going great, just let me know how it's going. I would really, really genuinely love to know. So just write a comment. Got a few minutes. So just pop something in the comments if you want to share, that is. And the question I was asking about the projects is, who do you need to become to complete your project? Who do you have to be to complete your project? So for me, because I realized I didn't answer the other two questions last week and the week before. So for me, I need to become consistent and determined. That's who I have to be, because I've had one instance where I was like, my project is daily meditation, and so far, touch wood, I have made it. But I've realized that if I am not determined about it, because I can feel myself starting to negotiate. You can miss tonight and do tomorrow. So yes, that is who I need to be. So let me know how your projects are going and who you need to be to complete them. Okay, Steve says stalled. Do you want to say a bit more about that, Steve, or are you kind of yes? Anyways, if you feel like you want to share a little bit more about that, that would be good to hear. William says so someone with skill and motivation, sadly. Okay, right. The Jellyfish says a routine is the only way to move forward. Yes, that does make a difference. I don't think it's the be all and end all. There's never any hard fast rules. At the end of the day, there's always, like some people always say, you're only a writer if you're writing every day. I fundamentally disagree. Like, I spend many days not writing. I've spent weeks not writing. I never in that time consider myself not to be a writer. So I think it's one of those things where one has to define for oneself what works. And if routine is what you need, then routine is what you got to use. But if that's not what you need, Don't worry about it. Steve says, I have become distracted by new shiny objects. Okay, so that is a form of procrastination. Does the project is it still important to you? That's the question. The Jellyfest says a drop of effort can evaporate. Many drops of effort can create a river of momentum. Now that's true. Lucy says meditation is her project. Good, thanks. Highlights difference between spare time and me time. Makes me more in the present. That's fantastic. And also the thing about meditation is that there's no, I was discussing this with Tom, I don't know if you're still on, Tom, but like I was discussing with Tom about how there's no end goal in terms of meditation. There's no experience that you need to be reaching for with it. And that can really take the efforting out of it, because all it is meditating. And if thoughts are rising and distracting you, is part of the process, because what you're doing is you're training your brain to not get distracted by those things. So the thought comes up and there's a thought, there's me getting caught in the thinkings, and then you pull yourself back. So so in terms of meditating, just being present and sitting or being there to do it is the meditation. Whatever happens within that is whatever happens within that. And every time you sit down to do it will be different. Steve says, I started training as a hospice chaplain and it's quite consuming. I need to reset my routine. Steve, you change what you're doing a lot. Donal, hi. Kendi says, wasn't here for previous discussions. Project is still looking nice but stagnant. I need a clearer mind to push through. Okay, so Kendi, what we talked about with these projects is, what was I going to say? Just having something clear, measurable, achievable, something that wasn't going to happen anyway. It could be part of a bigger ongoing project or something that you're, a whole thing in and of itself. And it's more about being in the process and who you are in the creation of it. These projects are all going to finish on, I realize I worked it out, 3 months. They're all 3-month projects. So they're going to finish on, or whenever you start. If you start now, then so be it. They're going to finish on the 31st of March. And that will be, if we keep going every Sunday, that will be live chat 49. There's only 10 more of these to go. And then who knows what after that. All right, I'm getting the countdown. So let me just read the last few comments. Small says, I was typing the reason for not having chosen a project. I realized there's really only one choice. That debilitating fear of failure I talked about last week was keeping me from just naming it. Please name the project. You have 90 seconds before I'm getting the Instagram countdown. Whoa, hang on, what did I just do there? Okay, Kaj is my project is writing a book, 9 pages written, 400 to go. I'm not desperate yet. What are you owning as what you will achieve within this 3 months? What will you have done by the 31st? Declare it, and then it will be so. Steve says, project is still important. It will come back to me as I have been asking to present my ideas on this. Okay. Small says, my biggest obstacle is resources and rebuilding confidence around that particular talent, which actually answers the question. I need to be confident networking artist. Gotta go get the resources. And also, I always say about resources, sometimes it's not about a lack of resources, but a lack of resourcefulness. You'll be surprised if you made a list and really thought laterally about the things that you have. You've got contacts, you've got skill sets, you've got past education, you've got, your networking skills, you've got physical resources, money. You can, even if you don't have money, you got other resources. So yeah, think laterally and you'll suddenly realize you've got access to more stuff than you thought. So he says, hospital chaplain is part of the discernment process for ordination. I'll PM you. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And Kendi says, thanks. George says, wow, that shot past. Thanks for an interesting chat. Tommy says, loving the project. Great. Oh, you guys, the time's going to run out. So listen, I'm going to sign off, but I will see you next week for a talk on self-talk. See you then. All right. Bye. Oh God, it just, you think you got loads of time? I was just chatting. Think I've got loads of time. Next thing I know, it's all over. It's all over. Anyways, listen. How often does this happen? It's ridiculous. Smalls, please. I didn't get to see your comments, and I feel bad that I didn't. So if you want to just say anything, about that, just what your project was, or if anybody else wants to add what their project is, I can add you to the list, because I'm excited to have as many people as possible take this on, because it's about the journey. It's not even about the projects, it's about the journey of going on that. And Smalls, you were saying something about confidence, and I think that declaring it and going for it, because whether you fail or whether you don't, it's a success because you started. So yes, I would love to know either this week or next week or whenever you join us next, what that project is. Does anyone else need to say anything about the projects? Was anyone like to say anything more about like who they need to be to achieve their project, or how the project is going? Because I got myself cut off again. Steve's laughing. It's ridiculous. I mean, one day I will just nail this timing thing, but until then, Kenny is saying, it's a book I need to write. I keep thinking about it every day lately, but don't ever talk about it. Are you ready to start writing that book, Kendi? Tony, hey, and Chase, hey. Oh, Tony, it's been a while. It's been a minute. Yeah, Kendi, are you ready to start writing that book? Do you want to take it on as part of this commitment? You got a team of supporters here, people who will be rooting for your success and who will also be on the journey with you, including myself. Mine is a meditation one. I'm not doing a doing project, but yeah, you'll have a gang of people with you. But only take it on if you're ready. Only take it on if it's right for you. Only take it on if this is what you desire, because what I've noticed is people who aren't bang into the project kind of let it go by the wayside. So if it's important to you, then, and you're ready to take it on, take it on. Oh, Smalls is gonna, okay, her project is an EP. I need to go back to doing music. I have 1 million plus contacts in that arena because I did it full time successfully for years. It's just the confidence to go get them, use them. Why don't you start, before you even create the music, start just by reaching out to some people that you haven't spoken to for a really long time. Just say, hey. Just start with that, just like a gentle toe in the water of those contacts. And then see, because, Smalls, this is specifically for you. This whole idea of like inspiration, she meets us there. Inspiration is like the mate that you're supposed to go and have dinner with. They don't come to your house and then travel to the restaurant. They meet you there. And the only way that this meal is going to happen is if you go there. Inspiration is not going to come and get you and put you on the metro or the subway or wherever it is you live and take you, hold your hand and get you to the restaurant. You have to meet her there. So starting to, step forward in faith, you will generate interest, inspiration, ideas, all I words, but you have to step out. Tony, happy new year, dude. Mike, hi. Sonia, hey. Smalls, you're right about resourcefulness versus resources. I have people waiting on my go. I mean, girl. Kendi says it's been in me for years and it's really, really tickling me. Kendi, can I recommend that maybe you start by coming up with an outline and you do that over the next 3 months and you have the outline for your book finished? Or have you outlined it? Were you the one saying that you've already started it? Small says, got it, I'm on it. Yeah, yep, you're right. Just yes. What harm? And also, no harm can come from that. And also, if it's in your heart, then this is what you should be doing. You can't, listen, it's the old Marianne Williamson quote. It's not, who are we to deny the world our greatness? If you've got something great inside of you, don't get in your own way of allowing the rest of the world to experience that. Because imagine who knows what difference what you're doing could possibly make for somebody. You owe us. Io, hey, and Kelly Bell, is that maybe Skelly Bell? Andy, are you keeping a journal as you meditate? Asked Steve. No, I'm not. Small says definitely, and Kendi says thumbs up, kiss. All right, listen, guys, it was just a little quick roundup. You're welcome, and I look forward to hearing what's next. And hopefully next week or next time we see you, you'll have a game plan for what you can execute within the context of this 3 months. I feel like I need to be really clear on that the project may be a 2-year thing or whatever, but find something that you can achieve that's finite within the 3 months. So even if it's, I'm going to reach out to 10 contacts, I'm going to have 1 track already done, I'm going to get some design art done, I'm going to take a music lesson, I'm going to start music lessons, whatever it is, have it be that there's one thing that you call your project in this context, might be part of a bigger thing that can be achieved by the 31st, right? You're welcome, Kendi. Kendi says, thanks. I needed that energy today. Guys, you are more than welcome. And it's a pleasure being here every week. We've only got 10 more of these to go. This is number 40 of 50. I committed to 50 because I felt like I want there to be one of these every week so that, you know, guys who are new to these, if you go onto my YouTube channel, and you can get to the link through my bio, you can see videos on a number of subjects. We cover so many different areas. And you know, as I was saying in the comments with Steve earlier, we're talking at a level of quite a high tier of consciousness a lot of the time. It's not socio-political what we're talking about. We're coming at this from quite a high level of consciousness, but it's in the realm of creativity. That's the domain that we're using to talk about these things, right? Oh, Steve, don't. But it's been a blast. But it's, yeah, I think 50 is a good number. I'm starting to like, what's next week going to be about? So yeah, I think 50 is about right. So Tony says, write the important things you need to do on an accountable mirror, preferably your bathroom. Every time you wake up and brush your teeth, they stare back at you. Scary. If that's what works for you, Tone, I like it. I like it. I have a little post-it by my bed that says gratitude, and that reminds me to just say out loud or say in my mind things that I'm grateful for. Okay, guys. All right. Well, look, listen, that's it. I'm very excited for you guys. I am particularly excited for Smalls and Kendi to see what you guys come up with, what your projects are going to be. And also, oh, by the way, hopefully very soon, these will all be there'll be a link to all of these in my highlights, so they'll be really easy to get to. You won't have to go through to my YouTube channel. You can do it all through YouTube, but I'll keep you posted on when that's up. I will miss these Sunday hangouts as well, Steve. I really will. It's really been a blessing to me for me to be able to have this type of conversation with you guys, and I appreciate you, every single one of you who shows up every week or whenever you're available and comes and really joins in wholeheartedly with these conversations. It means a lot to me because it feeds my soul, for sure. All right, guys, listen, have a wonderful Sunday, an amazing week, and I will see you for number 41 next week. All right, lots of love. Bye.